I like how we vibing. 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 I like how we vibing.
This video is sponsored by our channel sponsor, which is 015. You can find them on 015.co.za for some premium web hosting from as little as 45 Rand 90 cents. I mean, 45.90. Think about it. That's not a lot. And you will get some premium domains. And I personally would advise you on getting maybe the Supreme or the Executive packs, because it comes with a lot of benefits and a lot more storage. And you can host multiple websites on one package, you know. And this is, since we are talking businesses and growing your businesses, you can actually get your business registered by them. And there's some benefits, you know. You can get a name reservation, company registration, a certificate, income tax number, and you can even get a free.co.za domain if you pick one of the higher packages, or you can get a free QuickBooks subscription for 3 months. For 3 months. Yo, that's nice. You know, that's really, really nice. And if you want a website, they can actually develop a website for you at a very affordable rate of starting from 2,100, excluding VAT, I think. But it's not a lot. Think about it. 2,100. You spend a lot more on other things. But yeah, and once again, executive plans and supreme plans, you literally get free domains. They, for the first year, they are literally out here trying to win you guys over. Anyway, let's continue with the video. This week we'll be talking about wills and the importance of having a will, especially during COVID, because we've seen so many people die without having proper plans in place for those who are left behind. And having a will is very important. So let's get started, you know. What is a will? A will is a legal document that sets out your wishes in terms of distribution of your assets and other wishes that don't necessarily have to have financial value, like who will take care of your kids, you know, when there aren't any other parents around. So if, let's say, you are a guy and you pass away and your wife passed away a few years earlier, the kids, you know, somebody has to take care of them. So you can put it in your will that you want maybe their aunt to take care of them because you and her were close, etc., etc. Should one pass away without a will, your two wishes might end up never being carried out, and those who are left behind might end up fighting over your assets and other issues that you could have resolved really in a will, you know. And that's not to say a will won't stop people from fighting over your assets, but it will sort of give guidance, and if it's structured quite properly, you can actually have something for the court to actually start, you know, deciding in terms of how your assets will be distributed and all those things. So it's very important to make sure that your will is structured accordingly and properly, and not just by any fly-by-night Joe soap, you know, because if it's not done properly and the court tears through your will, then you might as well not have done it to begin with. So it's always important to make sure that you cover all bases in your will, and you make sure that it's legally enforceable, unlike just having a piece of paper, you know, that's not well structured, you know, and there's certain structures to a will. Yeah, so let's move on to the next slide. Why do you need a will? Well, one, it saves you time, money, and stress for your loved ones. A will is likely to save your loved ones a lot of money because there will be no lengthy court battles, which will result in unnecessary costs, and there will be those who want to contest it. But obviously, if your will is structured properly, like I said, the courts will be able to say, no, this will was structured properly. This was his true intentions, and the assets should be distributed according to his will because that's what he wanted. Your will also determine how your estate is managed, once you pass on, your assets will be transferred into an estate, and an executor will be assigned to handle your estate. In your will, you will nominate an executor, and the master of the court will either approve or reject the person depending on their qualification. Most of the time, attorneys and lawyers are the go-to. Attorneys and chartered accountants are the go-to people in terms of being executors of wills. And that's why most of the banks are able to execute or deal with wills a lot better than the everyday person, better than an everyday person. So it's always better, I guess. But there's been some scandals regarding banks and wills and estates. But that's not for me to speak on. The executor will be charged with the responsibility of wrapping up your estate and all your affairs. So they'll be charged with the responsibility of making sure that everything is taken care of. The assets are distributed accordingly. If there's any trust to be formed, they will make sure that trust is formed accordingly. Trustees are appointed accordingly, and all of that. And you will also decide who gets your assets and property and who does not. That's the important part. Who doesn't? As mentioned above, the executor will wrap up your affairs based on your will. Your will is going to tell the executor who's getting what, and in some cases, it will tell the executor who's not allowed to get any parts of your estate. That's the important part. Just in case you don't want anybody to get. Who should get one done? Short answer is anyone who's legally allowed to do so, and simply put, anybody above the age of 18. You don't need to have millions in your bank account to do so. When you pass away, your assets, regardless of their size, will actually form part of an estate. And there are two types of estates: deceased estates and interstate estates. The deceased estates is when you've assigned somebody to manage your estates. There's a will in place in terms of how your assets will be distributed, in terms of how your whole affairs will be handled, basically. Whereas an interstate estate is when the state, like I said, a state will determine how your assets are distributed, who's the executor. And this is normally for those who don't have a will. So the state decides, this is who's going to get what. And they sort of apply a blanket approach to how they distribute your assets. So there could be that one cousin you just don't like, and they could be like, yeah, this one cousin will get your favorite pair of sneakers, Let's say you're a sneaker collector. They'll be like, yo, he will get your favorite pair of sneakers. And you'll be thinking, well, you'll be dead. But if you were there, you'd be like, I don't like this guy. Why is he even getting 1, 2, 3? But that's what it is. So that's how that works. And then, so deceased estates when you have a will, interstate when you don't have a will. So where can you get one done? One can get one done at a number of places, but the obvious places are your bank. I know that FNB has been approaching a lot of their current clients to move them over to their will drafting services. They say it's free and all of that stuff, but technically it's not free. They will put themselves as executor, and when you do pass away, they will get 3.5% of your estate. So it's not necessarily free. You just need to look at it from that approach. Your lawyer, they can draft a will. They're actually in the best position to draft one because legally they can defend it, because that's what they do. That's their job, to go in front of a judge and defend. Your accountant, they're also in a good position to draft one for you because financially they know your assets and they know what they're worth, and they can also somewhat defend it, but we'll see. It depends on how well it's structured, once again. And the reason why I say, for me personally, going with either number 2 or number 3, would be the best fit, because you can actually, when you're drafting the will, you can actually appoint any of them to be an executor. But when you are doing it, you put in there that you can negotiate and say, look, instead of you be executing my estate at 3.5%, you can actually do it at 2% or 1.5%. They're in a better position. You've got a better working relationship with them, and they understand your finances. Most of the time, they understand. They're actually family friends. They become family friends. So it's always better to have somebody like that in your corner. You can even do it yourself if you wanted to, but you obviously have to meet certain criteria in order for it to be valid. It needs to be signed by a testator. That's a big word, but it's there. You can sign it with him or her being present. Well, they actually need to be present when you are signing it, so that's a given. You need 2 competent witnesses. The reason why I'm emphasizing the competent is because they need to go out there and defend the will and be like, yes, we saw him sign, we were there, and we understood what he was signing. So, that's why it's always important to have somebody who can actually say, yes, I understand what's going on here. All pages need to be signed by all parties, the testator and the witnesses. Making of a mark or commission of oath. Commissioner must sign. That's for those people who can't sign or they're not in a position to sign. The witness cannot benefit from the will, which is very important. So you can't have, let's say in your will you say your mom will get 1, 2, 3. You can't have your mom as a witness, because then it sort of says, why was she a witness and the rest of us were not there? What influence did she have on the person when they were signing the will? So it's very important to make sure that you look at who's in the will, and you don't make them a witness. And the witness cannot be an executor too. So that's another thing that you need to think about. An executor cannot be assigned any assets in the will. So your executor can't get anything either. So the witnesses and the executor should not be benefiting from the will at all. And anyone above the age of 16 can actually do a will. Or, I can draft a will on your behalf, And the testator is actually you, by the way. It's not somebody else. It's you as the person that's drafting the will, or that's a person that's having a will. When should you get one done? Well, the question shouldn't be when, but rather why you haven't gotten one done. There are a number of places where one can get it done, and your hardest decision is who will be the executor. And most people who will draft your will are likely to encourage you to make them the executor, so that they can actually get that 3.5%, like I said earlier, and 6% of the income received after your death, if the estate hasn't been tied, wind up. By the time, for example, let's say you've got some sort of asset that's generating revenue on a monthly basis, and then you pass away on the 20th, and that asset is going to bring money on the 10th, and by the 10th of the next month your will hasn't been wound up, the executor will get 6% of that money that's received in that month. And there's been stories of banks actually holding on to, or taking some time to wind them up. So like I was saying, there's been situations where banks have been taking their sweet time to wind up your estate, because they know that they're going to get that 6%. So they can take about 6 months, and an asset will be generating about, let's say, 100,000 worth of income, and they know for a fact that every month they're going to get that 6,000. There's been stories of banks doing that. I can't say that I've seen it or I've experienced it, but that's literally apparently something that happens in these streets. I can't tell you, So that's that. I don't know if I've got any more stuff to say. No, I don't actually. So thank you. Please don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram. The Twitter handle is the ComClinic ZA, because Twitter does not like long Twitter handles, whereas Instagram is the Compliance Clinic, because Instagram loves us, you know. Not to say Twitter doesn't love us, but Mark Zuckerberg made provisions for longer names. Anyway, thank you. We'll see you next week or in the next video. Cheers, peace.